Hi, I'm George and welcome to GMakes. And this is a quick tutorial on how to do that texting effect that is in every modern TV show ever. The aesthetics of this version of the effect are very much inspired by the Netflix series Sex Education, just the kind of soft, kind of Android, kind of iPhone text. I just like the aesthetics, so that's why that's based on that. Alright, so to start off, I don't have any footage for this one. I'm just going to go over how to make the text bubble and the opening animation, not how to comp it in or animate a whole conversation in your footage. So I'm just going to do a new composition. I'm going to go with the basic normal settings. Actually, I'm going to switch this down just to good old 1080p 29.97, and I'm going to name this texting tut. And I'm going to hit enter, and I will have a new composition ready to go. So in this new composition, I'm going to start right away with a shape. This is the base of the bubble. I have a rounded rectangle selected, and I'm just going to make one. This one is going to be fairly big, coming up right there, and you can see I have it all set down here. Now, in this, in the layer, the shape layer, which I will rename to bubble base, you can change a couple things. So of course you can change your normal stuff on any shape, but on the path you can also change the roundness of the corners if you want more of that round effect. I'm going to stick with the default of 20. Now I'm going to add a new shape. This one is going to be a polygon. I'm going to hold shift just to make sure it stays straight. I'm going to go into the polystar and again to the path and change it down to a triangle, so 3 points. I am then going to go into its transform properties, and I'm going to unlink its scale because I want to make this a little bit wider and a little bit flatter. This is the tail of our bubble, so I'll change that to bubble tail. And now, if I press V, I can move things around. I am on Windows, so most of these shortcuts I say should work for everything, but some of them might not. Let's say we'll have this bubble coming out from somebody who is on the right side of the screen, or the empty space is on the left side, so it's coming out that way. So I'm just going to take this end bubble and line it up with the bottom right there. It doesn't have to be perfect, because you're not going to see it from far away. And there we go. We have a text bubble. So that's pretty darn good. The last thing I'm going to do before I move on, we're going to pre-comp this, but before I get to that, I'm going to hit Y, which will bring up the wonderful pan behind tool. You can also use it up here. I'm going to grab my anchor point of my rectangle. I have my rectangle, my bubble base selected. I'm going to grab that anchor point, and I'm going to quickly get back to it. So we're going to hit Y. Actually, there it is. It just disappeared on me. I'm going to hit Y. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to hold Control or Command on a Mac, and I can snap it to the corner here. I want to have it in the corner because when we scale this later to match the text, I don't want it scaling from the center. I want it scaling from where this tail is. So with that done, I'm going to hit V again just to get back into my standard grabby bit, or as it's commonly known, the selection tool. And I will select both the bubble tail and the bubble base. I am going to right click and I'm going to pre-compose those. I will name this bubble. And in this pre-comp layer we have our shapes. Now we're going to go back to our normal, our regular composition. So this is our pre-comp bubble, and we are going to add pretty much the only effect that we're really going to put on here, which is an emboss effect, and this will get us those kind of beveled edges, but we don't want to bevel because that will only get it from one direction. So if we go up here and we want to really keep the contrast pretty strong and make sure we blend it, and now we can make that relief from 1, we can bump that up a fair bit. We can try to fix the angle and again mess around with how much you blend it. The relief size, this is a pretty big rectangle I have right here, so my relief is being pretty big, and also the contrast pretty strong. And you can see I'm messing. There we go. We could even make this relief much bigger because my bubble's fairly big. You might want to start with a smaller bubble, and I'm just gonna get an angle I like that more or less intersects all the sides. There we go. That looks pretty good to me. And now we can blend that with the original. I think there looks pretty good. That's a pretty good effect. And now we have our bubble done. So now we get to add some text. So I'm going to Control T to get my text tool. I'm going to select the corner of where my bevel is, or my emboss rather, and I'm going to drag to create a text box. I'm just going to fill up that middle section. Doesn't have to be perfect. This is kind of quick again, and I'm going to already clicked in there, so I can type something like, hey, have you heard of this awesome YouTube channel called George Makes? I think you'd like it. You should subscribe for tutorials and cool videos. Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Something that any average person would text at any average time, of course, with never misspelling a word ever. And so now we have our text. You can change the size of this. Again, I made my text box kind of big, so I'm maybe going to fit that text a little bit better into my text box. And there we go. But let's say I had it really, really small. Let's say I just, for some reason, had a really small, because you can change the text size here if you want to make it fit, but if you're doing a lot of these and you want to keep the text size consistent, let's say I have it just really small for whatever reason, really small text. So I'm going to copy my text layer. I'm going to go select it and then go edit, copy. I'm going to go back into my bubble pre-comp. I'm going to edit and paste it, or Control V, just so that I can get it in there. And I can kind of see. But actually before copying and everything, I want to make sure that I have this in the right spot. So I'm going to drag this down and line it up to the bottom there. Now I can copy this layer. And we're going to copy. And now I'm going to go into my original pre-comp and I'm going to paste it. And now it's right down there. And this is why we put the anchor point in the corner, because if I go to the bubble base, I can go to transform. I can unlink the transform, and now I can control how far this goes. So there we go. I made it fit. But I'm not going to do that because, again, I have this text. I'm just going to scale it to fit nicely into my bubble. And there we go. We're resending the text out. Perfect. And we'll rescale this back up to fit into our bubble. And alright, so now we have the text bubble, but now we want to animate it. So I'm just going to, again, make another pre-comp with the text layer and my bubble pre-composition. I'm going to name this bubble text. There we go. Now we're going to go back into our original composition, and we can see bubble text right here. I'm again going to press Y to get that behind tool, or you can click up here again, the pan behind. I'm going to grab the anchor point, and no snapping, just put it roughly in the corner there. And now I'm going to go about 1 second in the future on my timeline, so to 30 frames, or my 1 second marker here. I'm going to add a scale keyframe. I'm going to keep it linked because I just want to change this whole thing at once. And I'm going to go 10 frames in the future, and I'm going to make another keyframe. I'm going to go back, change my scale to 0 on that first one, and now if we play it back, we get this scale animation. But I want to make it just a little bit better, so I'm going to select both my keyframes, right click, go to keyframe assistant, and do easy ease. You can also press F9 with those selected. And there we go. We have that nice little pop into it, that kind of Bezier curve, or Bezier curve, and there we go. So that is how to make a quick and easy text bubble texting animation in After Effects. If you want to make a conversation, a simple one or complex one, like you saw in my opening little weird sketch bit, you would just do this a couple different times, keep your layers organized, and then you can either comp them over your footage in After Effects or export them as individual little animations like this, and then have a little more freedom to animate them or scale them or position them in your actual cut of your footage if you're doing it in Premiere Pro or some other editing program. So that, again, is how to make this kind of modern texting effect, real simple, real quick, inspired by the Netflix series Sex Education in terms of its aesthetic, but you'll see this in every modern TV show pretty much. So hope you learned something, hope you have fun with this. You can change this in a lot of different ways to make it fit your aesthetic more, and see you next time. Bye!